Hello friends, I've got hopefully a shorter video for you today. I'm just going to be giving sort of my raw thoughts on something I've been thinking about, which is traps. I'm designing a dungeon for my players right now, which means inevitably I'm sort of asking the question, should there be traps in this dungeon, and if so, what should those traps look like? So my name is Zach Dyson, this is Dungeon Master Design, and today we're talking about how to trap our players. Now, like I said, this is going to be sort of a shorter video. I am just kind of talking off the top of my head. There's not a script that I wrote for this. This is just sort of my raw input on traps. But traps are sort of a tricky thing in D&D because they don't really work the way that the rest of D&D works. They don't play by the rules. They're not a monster that you can interact with. And so the more clearly and intentionally we can be thinking about traps, the better, at least in my opinion. If we're just putting them in there because, well, a dungeon's supposed to have traps in it, so I've got to put traps, I think we're going to end up putting the wrong type of trap there, or we're going to end up doing something that frustrates our players. And that is sort of the downside of traps, is that we end up sometimes frustrating our players, or maybe accidentally killing our players, or the trap just isn't interesting. Traps are just notoriously hard to make fun in D&D. So I think traps sort of fall into four categories. This is not D&D traps, but like traps in the real world sort of fall into four categories. The first category is you're trapping someone because you're trying to keep them out of somewhere, right? This is like a pit trap, or like a tripwire, or lasers, or something like that. You're trying to keep somebody out of a place, and you're usually doing it by killing them, because if they're there, they're probably not good news, they're probably not your friend, and you want them dead. So that's the first way you're trying to trap someone, is by keeping them out. The second way is you're trying to capture them, right? You're trying to trick them and capture them. Usually that's like a trap for an animal. You're trying to capture it and probably eat it, usually. And so you put that trap in a place that's unexpected. You put that trap usually in a place where the thing you're trying to trap is going to sort of naturally be anyway. And you either capture it, or again, you can kill it in that instance, but usually it's like a net, or like a hole or something that they fall into and they can't get away. The third type of trap is, I guess this is sort of a D&D type trap. It's not a real world example, but it's what people call like a trial of the worthy, or like a test of courage, or something like that. This is going to be an intentionally placed test that is intended to be overcome, right? Those first two traps, they're not intended to be overcome. You want them to work. You want them to either capture or kill someone. But the trial of the worthy, or the test of courage, is sort of designed to be overcome by a specific type of person, usually by a person of noble heart, or a person of good morality, or the type of person who's going to be a hero. How do you test that with a trial of courage? I don't know, but that's always sort of the trope, is that whoever is strong enough to overcome this test is also going to be good enough to, use the item at the end, or use the reward at the end. And that is sort of another trope of those tests, is usually they have some sort of reward for the heroes at the end. And so usually they play to the hero's strengths, and if the heroes overcome the trial, they get the reward. And then the fourth type of trap isn't really a trap at all, in the sense that it's not planned by anybody, because that trap is sort of a naturally occurring trap, whether that be a cave-in in a dungeon, or in a cavern, or whether that be some slippery terrain that sends them into a river, or whether that be a spider's web, something like that, something naturally occurring. It wasn't intended to trap the players by any NPC or by any designer. It just sort of happened because that's what naturally occurs in that place. And those types of traps can have some overlap with the other types of traps, right? Maybe your trial of the worthy involves going into sort of a naturally dangerous area, or maybe, there is something that captures the players that's naturally occurring. You know, they fall into a hole, they get stuck in a spider web or whatever. And sometimes those things can just keep the players out, right? They weren't careful, they caused the cave in, and now they can't get into this entrance and they have to find another way into the cave, whatever it may be. So the real question is, when you're designing a dungeon, when you're designing an encounter, what types of traps are the players going to be encountering? Is it a trial of the worthy? Are they meant to overcome those traps by whoever designed this trap? Are they meant to overcome it and gain a reward? Or are they really trying to be kept out of a place by whoever designed these traps? Or maybe the traps weren't there intentionally at all, and this is sort of just a natural environment. And understanding which type of trap you're putting the players in is going to help you decide how much damage that trap does, how difficult that trap is to overcome, etc., right? A natural trap might be really easy to overcome, right? Hey, make a perception check. You see that up ahead there are some loose rocks above you and they're sort of precariously placed, so be careful as you proceed. But if they fail that perception check, then they don't see those rocks, they don't proceed carefully, they cause the cave in, whatever. Maybe they accidentally blasted a thunder wave and those rocks fell in. And that can give you a lot of leeway in how much damage you want to do, because if it's naturally occurring, you know, well, sorry, rocks fall and everybody dies. You know, maybe avoid that one. Sort of a nasty trope at this point, but you get the idea. Like, there could be very big rocks that do a lot of damage to the players, or maybe it's just sort of a small, handful of rocks that do like 1d6 damage to your level 5 players, and it's not that big of a deal. But you can kind of make that gauge. But if it is a trap that's specifically designed to keep them out of a place, then I think it should be maybe easily detectable but not easily overcome, or on the other side, difficult to detect but easy to overcome. But then if it does go off, it should be very deadly to your players, because it is ultimately designed to kill them. It's designed to keep them out of this place. And a trap that doesn't kill somebody or doesn't keep them out is not a very good trap at that point. So I would say make it either hard to detect or hard to overcome. Don't make it both, because that's not very fun and not very fair. And then make it very deadly, because you're trying to keep your players out. Maybe it doesn't outright kill somebody, but it takes a heavy toll, right? Because they are heroes. They're able to shrug off a certain amount of damage. They're able to survive things that other people wouldn't be able to survive. But it will do a lot of damage because it's intended to kill whoever comes into this place. And then if it is intended to capture the players, I think that's where you have a lot of leeway to make it both hard to see and maybe hard to overcome, because the consequences are less dire. If you just get captured in a net, it's not a big deal, right? You eventually get out because either the person comes along and you have to fight them, or maybe you're able to use a spell and teleport out of the trap, or maybe you're able to cut your way out of the net, or whatever it may be. But you have a little bit more leeway, because getting captured in that trap is going to be maybe just as interesting as avoiding the trap in the first place. So you can make that one a little bit more difficult, I think, because the consequences are less dire. And then finally, we talk about the trial of heroes, and I think that's really where you can have a lot of fun with traps in D&D, because that's where you get sort of these, I guess you call them contrived traps that literally make no sense in any other setting. That it's like, why is there a room that slowly fills with water, but there's also a target on the ceiling that if you hit it with an arrow in an accurate way, it releases a door that you can go into and collect a gem that will absorb all the water. That's insane, right? Like, that makes no sense to exist unless someone is specifically testing the ability of the players. In which case, you can put that in front of the players, and it is contrived because it's meant to test the players. So I'll say that's probably the end of the video. Like I said, I didn't have a lot of plan to this video. I just wanted to talk about traps because I'm thinking about them a lot. Some final closing thoughts. If a trap is designed by someone, there should be a way to turn it off or to circumvent it. Because whoever designed that trap, they don't want to be affected by the trap, right? They don't want to be captured. They don't want to be killed. They don't want to endure the test of the trial of heroes or whatever. Whatever it is, there should be a way to circumvent that trap, whether it's just turning it off or whether it's, certain types of creatures are immune to it and can just go through it, naturally. Maybe there's poison gas and it's a test design or a trap designed by an undead. The undead aren't affected by poison. They can just walk through the poison gas, but other people can't, right? Whatever it is, there should be a way to get through it. Don't make it completely impossible to get in, because then your players might start asking, well, if this big trap was here, how did this guy get in there? How did these monsters get in there? So think about that as well. But I think that's going to be the end. I said that already, but now I'm saying it for real. I think that's going to be the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for sort of bearing through my raw thoughts on this. Let me know how you guys do traps down in the comments, or let me know if this was helpful in how you think about traps. But until the next time, my name is Zach Dyson. This has been Dungeon Master Design, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.